Hey neighbor, today we're going to go over a new list that the Environmental Working Group out of Washington, D.C. come up with, the 10 most pesticide-ridden or laden or contaminated vegetables out there. And we're going to go over the 10 cleanest ones out there according to their testing. And at the end, I'm going to give you my thoughts on what we can do about this. But folks, I'm going to tell you, this was enlightening to me. You know, I find myself, I think I'm fairly well-versed in agriculture and horticulture. Some of this was surprising to me, this findings. Now, this testing was done by the USDA, and it was reported by this Environmental Working Group, and I did a little research on that because I'm always skeptical of where my information comes from. But I think this is a legitimate group that's not necessarily funded by a particular bunch that has an agenda to push. So I think it's okay, but you know what? At the end of this, we're gonna put a link down below and you can go read this report and make your own decisions. I was really surprised by some of this that's on this today, and we're gonna break it down and go over each one of them. But number one on the list, the most contaminated vegetable out there, and we're talking about fruits and vegetables, is spinach. My dear friend, we love spinach. We eat spinach out of the garden all the time. But it is the most pesticide contaminated vegetable out there according to the USDA testing that they did in 2026. You know what somewhat stands to reason? This is a leaf that we consume, and the pesticides, fertility, everything is sprayed on the leaf there. The leaf is, harvested, and we actually eat the leaf. So you can kind of understand why leafy vegetables may have a little bit more contamination. Spinach, that was kind of thrown me by the wayside. I didn't know it was going to be spinach was going to be the most contaminated. We grow our own spinach here. We hardly ever, in fact, I can't remember the last time I bought spinach, fresh spinach in the store. We just something we don't do. But you know what? We like to go out to eat every now and then, and I love spinach dip. So when you order spinach dip at the restaurant, makes you think twice, doesn't it? Well, number two was kind of a grouping of 3 or 4 together. Kale, collard, and mustard greens come in at number 2, the most contaminated. And here's our collard greens that we love, and we eat them weekly. We love collard greens, but there again, we're consuming the leaf. So anything that's sprayed on this leaf right here, we're consuming this. So the pesticide exposure, you can think to yourself, well, it would be more because it's sprayed on the leaf and we're consuming that part that it was actually sprayed. And number 3, to my surprise on the list, is strawberries. And I got to thinking about that. Strawberries, we grow a lot of strawberries. Strawberries they have the most problem with disease of anything we grow. So it only makes sense that we spray so many fungicides on the strawberries in the commercial agriculture that it does have contamination there. You see there is some ones we like to grow in our garden. They're looking pretty good here. But when we're growing these things in the field, monoculture, we have a lot more problem with disease than when we grow them in the home garden. So I thought about myself, I've been in the airport before, and I had a choice between pizza or go to the little kiosk over there and buy you a cup of yogurt with some fresh fruit in there, like strawberries and blueberries and things. And you make the choice you're going to try to eat healthy. You're going to go to the kiosk and you're going to buy you a little cup of fruit. This here makes you think twice about if you're really eating healthy. Coming in at number 4 is grapes. Oh, I hate that. I love grapes. I do buy grapes in the grocery store. I can't grow grapes here in South Georgia, so that's a tough one on me. Grapes. Coming in at number 5, nectarines. I don't grow nectarines here either, and I like nectarines. I don't eat a lot of them, but I like them. Number 6 is peaches. Yeah, we're known in Georgia for peaches. I don't grow any on my place, but there are some farmers around that grow things. And coming in at number 6, dirty 10, is peaches. Number 7, cherries. Cherries is another thing we don't grow here. I don't eat a lot of cherries, but it's on the list. Number 8 is apples. Now this one caught me by surprise because apples is grown on a tree, and they do have a lot of disease problems. Now North Georgia grows a lot of apples. But apples is number 8 on the list, and number 9 on the list is blackberries. Now this one caught me by surprise. Now we grow blackberries here in the garden. They're easy to grow. Never ever do I remember having to treat blackberries for insecticide or fungicide. Now we don't grow a lot of them. We got a row here that's probably 50 foot long. And we make all kind of blackberries in the summertime. We come out here and harvest it. We want it. But our store-bought blackberries are contaminated with pesticides according to this study here. That caught me off guard because I didn't realize blackberries had that much problem with insect and disease problems grown commercially. And number 10 is pears, and I kind of guess you think about pears the same way you do apples. We don't grow a lot of pears here in the South. A lot of the home gardeners will have a couple of pear trees here and there. I used to have one. I love pears. I just don't have a pear tree. We have a problem with fire blight years ago that kind of got me out of growing pears. Most of the soft pears I think are grown in California. The pears do have a lot of disease problems. So I guess that's where the contamination mostly comes from, is spraying the fungicides. All right, so now it's time to switch it over and get into the clean 10. The 10 cleanest ones that was tested. Now keep in mind, when they did this test here, they washed these vegetables to mimic just what the homeowner would do. So these are not taken directly out of the field and tested. These things was washed just like you would do at home after you buy them at the grocery store and wash them off, the peeling or peel them or whatever. These tests was done after that, so keep that in mind. Now let's get into the cleanest 10. Number 1 is pineapple. Who knew? We don't grow pineapples here. I don't even know if they're grown in the United States, maybe Hawaii. I don't think pineapples are grown very much in Florida. Pineapples, number 1, is being one of the cleanest fruits or vegetables. Number 2 is sweet corn. Now this one surprised me a lot because we grow a lot of sweet corn commercially here in my area where we live here. Sweet corn is sprayed probably more than any other crop that I know of, sprayed every day or every other day because of corn earworm. The consumer in the grocery store has no tolerance for finding a worm in your corn, so it has to be sprayed a lot to keep the worms out of the corn. Here on the garden, we don't spray it very much at all because if we get a worm or two in the top, we just cut it out. Our saying is, if the worm won't eat it, we shouldn't eat it either, but the average consumer has no tolerance for worms. So number 2, sweet corn on the cleanest, surprised me probably the most. But we do have that husk on there that protects the actual kernel. I'm guessing that's kind of what helped it get to number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list is avocados. I love avocados. We don't grow them here in South Georgia. They grow a good many in South Florida. Don't know a lot about avocados, but it did make number 3 on the clean list. Number 4, papayas. Don't know a lot about them either, but I'm glad they made number 4 list. And number 5, onions. Now we grow a lot of onions here on the farm. Onions store well for us. It's one of the mainstays for our food crop here. But you know what? Think about it. Onions really don't have a lot of disease or insect problems. We have a little blight problem we get on the green part sometimes that we may have to treat for. But onions is grown in the ground or right above the ground there, and we get to peel that outer layer off. So I guess that's the reason we don't have a lot of pesticides inside that bulb there, is because it is protected by that wrapper there that gets peeled off anyway. Number 6, sweet peas. We grow a lot of sweet peas here in the garden. Never do we have problems with insect or disease hardly on those right here. They're a little temperamental to grow because of the temperature. If it gets too cold or gets too hot, we normally don't have any problem with those as far as diseases or anything like that. Now cow peas, different story, but sweet peas, I can see that. Number 7, asparagus. Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Asparagus don't have a lot of disease and insect problems. We grow it on a home garden. Never, ever have I treated it with anything as a disease or insect. So it's just out there. When it gets time, we just come pick it. Heck, we'll even eat it straight out of the garden sometimes. Number 8, cabbage. Yeah, this one surprised me somewhat. But normally speaking, when we eat cabbage, we peel off those outer leaves. So if there's any kind of pesticide application, most of the time it would be on those outer, what we call wrapper leaves. So when we peel those back, we're eating the actual core of the plant. So it is protected more so than our mustard, our turnips, and our spinach. Number 9, cauliflower. Yeah, this one surprised me a lot. Because sometimes our head is exposed to when it might be treated with the pesticide. We do have varieties that wrap up and kind of protect the head there. But cauliflower really surprised me. And number 10, I love this one, watermelon. Number 10 on the clean list is watermelon. It makes plenty of sense. Now watermelons have their fair share of disease problems, but we're eating the inside, so it's protected really well by that rind, by that outer layer of skin there that we don't eat, that takes the brunt of the pesticide applications there and kind of keeps it from the inside, the meat of the watermelon. So that stands to reason. So there's this new thing in this study called PFAS, and these are classified as forever chemicals that's in some of these pesticides, and even some of the surfactants or the inert ingredients that we spray with these fungicides and insecticides. These things don't break down. It takes years for them to break down. And some of these chemicals that are classified as PFAS, I did not know. One of them is bifenthrin, which is one of the most commonly used insecticides out there. The exterminator uses it to spray the inside of your house. It's sprayed on golf courses, it's sprayed on lawns, it's sprayed in vegetable gardens. You go to the Home Depot or Lowe's, whatever, they got bifenthrin in there, you can buy it. It's widely used, classified as a PFAS, a forever chemical. Didn't know that. Another chemical that is classified, that is most widely found in the contamination of these dirty tins here, is a fungicide, and the common name for it is called switch. Switch is used a lot on fruits, strawberries and things like that. So that made a little sense to me why we had so much contamination with strawberries, because this chemical, this fungicide called switch, which was the most commonly found contaminant. So that's kind of interesting right there. These things take, this says decades, if not centuries, to break down. All right, so here's a couple of little interesting side notes here. A total of 91% of blackberry samples had detectable pesticides with an average per sample of more than 4 pesticides. A combination of fungicides and insecticides here. All right, so what is the top takeaways from this report? Almost 60% of samples for all clean 15 fruits and vegetables had no pesticides residues. That's good. Nearly all samples of produce on the dirty dozen, or we call it the dirty 10, had pesticide residues. The most frequently detected pesticide across all fruits and vegetables is the PFAS classification of pesticides. 3 of the top most commonly detected pesticides are in that classification of the PFASs. And that's not just fungicides and insecticides, that is surfactants, or some of those things that's added to make these chemicals work better. So we kind of laid it out there, and it's kind of discouraging at some point, and it makes you feel a little bit better about some of the clean ones out there. Now, these were samples that were just taken. I don't think we can put a lot of stock into this right here. It is a good overall view of it, but the sample that they took can be an unusual sample. So I don't know if the sample size was this enough to be, in my mind, I know it's not. The sample size is not enough to be a complete understanding of pesticide contamination on all these right here. They could have pulled a sample that's just clean. There was no testing of organic. This is all conventionally grown produce. So what do we do about this right here? Well, here's my take on this, folks. Understand, first of all, this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is a government issue. I'm 60 years old, and this is not a problem that goes with different administrations. So don't even go down that road. This is a government problem. We got 2 different agencies going at it one another there. We got the USDA that did this testing here, that's giving us this information here. And then we got the Environmental Protection Agency on the other side that's approving all this to be put on our food. Sure, our government is going back and forth at odds with one another, and they really don't get anywhere, but you can always follow the money to find out what's going to get done. So I can promise you there's not a lot going to get done out of this study right here, because there's no money to be involved there. A lot of the big lobbying agents can lobby to have certain things done. So don't try to think this is a Republican or Democratic thing. This is a government problem. What can we do? Well, the first thing we need to do is not rely on our government to tell us what is safe to eat, in my opinion. You can grow your own food. We grow a lot of our own food here at Hoss. But you know what? We love to go out to eat every now and then. We're regular people too. And when we go out to eat, we order things off the menu that we know are contaminated now. So you got those issues there. You just kind of have to try to mitigate as much as you can. And I know life gets in the way, but if you have a local farmer that you really trust, maybe a small farmer that you trust always putting on this, try to buy your food from there if you can't grow your own food. I know it's aggravating. I know life gets in the way. Sometimes on the way home from work, and we have to figure out what's going to be for supper that night, it's easy to stop by the grocery store. Let's slow life down a little bit. Let's focus on eating healthier, eating better, eating less contaminated foods. Growing your own food. If you can't grow your own food, think about buying from a good, trusted source. A lot of our big corporate farms that are organic nowadays, I don't trust them. I don't trust the organic label when I go in the grocery store, because The corporate farms own that terminology now, and they're just not trustworthy because they follow the dollar. So don't be discouraged. Try to figure out how you're going to do a better job feeding your family. The worst thing we can do is feed our small kids this. In the study, it links in there that the small kids have more problem digesting these chemicals, and they cause more problems to our small children and our young adults. So that's a big thing. Feed your family well. We're going to put a link below where you can go read this entire report because it's interesting. It's not a real lengthy read, but you can read it, come to your own judgment how you want to feed your family.